Hi YouTubers, the 1980s was a magical time for cinema. A decade where blockbusters became bigger, characters became iconic, and box office records kept shattering. From adventurous archaeologists to time-traveling teenagers, and of course, a homesick alien. The 80s gave us movies that are still celebrated today. But here's the big question, which films actually dominated that decade? Which one of our classic 80s movies made it all the way to the box office Hall of Fame? And can you guess the movie in the 80s that made more money than anyone? Today on Bushwick's Review Hub, we're doing a deep dive into 80s nostalgia movies. We count down the top 10 grossing movies of the 1980s, exploring not just their massive box office numbers, but also what made them unforgettable. Like, to me, these weren't just movies, these were cultural events. Like, audiences lined up for around the block to buy tickets, and then, you know, if you really loved it, you went back and watched it a third or a fourth time. And that's what made all these 80s movies legendary. And as we work our way to number one, I'll definitely share some with you. And also don't forget to subscribe if you're new, and let's get on with it. Think you know what movie made the list? Stick around to find out more. And hey, if you have any 80s movies that you like that's not on the list, why don't you write down in the comments? We'd love to hear from you guys. Now, let's get started. Why don't you just sit back, relax, and let's dive into the 80s world of cinema. Let's kick things off with number 10 and one of my personal favourites, Indiana Jones and the Templar of Doom, 1984. Steven Spielberg's Indiana Jones and the Templar of Doom came in strong at the box office, earning $330 million worldwide. This sequel, or rather prequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark, took us on a darker, grittier adventure where Indy had to battle a sinister cult at the heart of India. This film introduced iconic moments like the infamous dinner scene where you had eyeball soup and chilled monkey brains. It also gave us Short Round, Indy's lovable sidekick, and an unforgettable minecart chase through the mines. While Templar of Doom also was a massive hit, it also stirred a lot of controversy. Its intense themes even led to the creation of the PG-13 rating. But love it or fear it, it cemented Indiana Jones as one of our greatest action heroes of the 80s. Alright YouTubers, we're jumping into number 9, and that happens to be Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark, 1981. Now, in Raiders of the Lost Ark was the first time we actually met Indy, and it actually happened to make $354 million worldwide. That's pretty insane. Old Steven Spielberg, he can pull them out, that's for sure. Directed by Steven Spielberg and based on George Lucas's vision, this film gave audiences everything. Action, romance, suspense, everything you needed in a 1980s movie. The opening boulder scene alone was one of the most iconic moments in all movie history, I feel. And who can forget the Nazi face melting finale? And Indy's quest for the Ark of the Covenant wasn't just a race against time, it was a race into the hearts of the audiences in the 1980s. Like, Raiders of the Lost Ark didn't just rake in a lot of cash, it also was a cultural phenomenon. Like, it started treasure hunters all over the world. Even I gotta admit, I went in the backyard and started digging a little bit. You never know when you might find a little bit of treasure. At number 8, we shift gears into Rayman, which made $354.8 million worldwide. A drama starring Dustin Hoffman and Tom Cruise. This film didn't just capture hearts, it also captured 4 Oscars as well, including Best Picture and Best Actor for Dustin's portrayal of Rayman. Audiences were drawn together by the emotional story of 2 estranged brothers on a road trip that transforms everything. Like, who could forget the Las Vegas scene where Rayman's cow cutting skills amazed everyone. So I feel that Rayman actually solidified itself in there, and it didn't just prove that all 80s movies had to be action, you could also have heartfelt movies as well. Alright YouTubers, we're moving on to number 7 now. This happens to be one of my all-time favourites, at Top Gun at 1986. Top Gun soared into theatres in 1986 and scored an impressive $357 million. Directed by Tony Scott and starring Tom Cruise as Maverick, now this action-packed tale of aviators was an instant classic hit, and one that directly went to my heart. Audience couldn't get enough of the intense dogfights, all the action-packed scenes, and of course, the shirtless volleyball scene that everyone seems to love. Iceman, Val Kilmer, gotta love you mate. And let's not forget Kenny Loggins with the iconic song Danger Zone, which pretty much is the 80s I feel. The Top Gun wasn't all about action, it had a heart too. When Maverick struggles to overcome loss and to prove himself, it really gives you a heartfelt movie that Tom Cruise played really well, I feel. Like, this movie was so impactful, apparently the US Navy actually had a surge of people joining up after the movie came out in the 80s. Now, this one really hits my heart because I'm a real big fan of this series, and I can't even explain it to you guys. Now, coming in at number 6 was a movie that finished out a trilogy, and I gotta admit, this trilogy is one of the best trilogies I ever recommend in all my life. And that is Star Wars Return of the Jedi, 1983, which closed out the original Star Wars trilogy with a bang, grossing $374 million worldwide. The film brought back all the fan favourite characters: Luke Skywalker, Han Solo, Chewbacca, Darth Vader, Princess Leia, everyone an ultimate movie that no one can ever forget. From the thrilling speedbike chases on Endor to the emotional showdown between Luke and Vader, this movie gave everything the audiences wanted. And of course, who couldn't forget the Ewoks, pint-sized warriors that actually had the world divided. Now, I love the Ewoks. There was one special time in Return of the Jedi where one of the Ewoks dies with his partner and he goes back and rocks him. Man, that made me even cry. Gotta love Return of the Jedi. But what truly elevated Return of the Jedi was its emotional weight. Watching Vader's redemption and final act of sacrifice for his son was an ultimate movie ending and a bittersweet finale for Star Wars. It's no wonder this film became a box office giant and also one in my heart. And now at number 5, we hit 88 miles per hour and go back to 1985 with Back to the Future, which grossed at $381 million worldwide. The sci-fi comedy directed by Robert Zemeckis follows Marty McFly and Doc Brown on a time-traveling adventure which made this movie an instant classic. From the DeLorean to the ultimate Johnny B. Good performance, every moment of Back to the Future is dripping with 80s charm. This film wasn't just a hit, it was a cultural phenomenon. It spawned 2 sequels, a theme park ride, and countless mentions in modern media. And here's a fun fact, Michael J. Fox wasn't actually cast as the original actor for Marty McFly. Eric Stoltz filmed a couple of scenes before they recast the role, and that move changed cinema history forever. Alright YouTubers, let's dive into the top 4 of the big boys for the 1980s, the highest grossing 4 films of the 1980s. Let's get into it now. Alright, swooping at number 4 in 1989, we have Batman, and it grossed $411 million worldwide. Tim Burton's dark and stylish take on Gotham City introduced characters like Michael Keaton's Batman and the unforgettable Jack Nichol's Joker. This wasn't the campy Batman of the 60s, this was a bold reimagining of the Batman that we all know now to love. The gothic visuals and Danny Elfman's moody score set the tone for the superhero movies that we know today and love. I feel that Jack Nicholson stole the role as Joker in this movie, delivering one of the most iconic lines in comic book movie history. Ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight? And those fans couldn't get enough of it, neither could I. With its success, Batman proved that comic book adaptations of movies could be profitable, and that paved the way for the superhero movies that we have today. At number 3, we reunite with everyone's favourite archaeologist, Indiana Jones, and The Last Crusade. This beast of a movie got $474 million worldwide and made a movie that left its mark against its fans of the Indiana Jones series. What do you feel made this entry especially special? I feel it was when Sean Connery joined the cast as Indy's dad, and the duo's chemistry was pure cinema magic. Their banter combined with the action of like the tank battle scene, and one of the best scenes was a leap of faith. Plus, The Last Crusade brought back the love and charm that people love from Raiders of the Lost Ark, making it a perfect swan story for Indy's trilogy until the 2000s. Now we arrive at number 2, YouTubers, and this movie happens to be considered one of the greatest sequels of all time in 1980. And that's Star Wars The Empire Strikes Back. With a box office haul of over $538 million, this darker chapter of the Star Wars world we all joined in love was awesome, and I especially love that movie. So what made Empire so impactful? First, it gave us one of the most shocking twists in cinema history. No, I'm your father. That moment redefined the franchise and left audiences stunned. Like, out of all the Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back really hits hard at me. The snow battle on Hoth was epic, and then that's one of the first times you actually get to see Yoda, or that's actually the first time you get to see Yoda brought into a Star Wars film back in those times. And as well, one of the saddest scenes ever, where Leia tells Han Solo that she loves him, and he goes, I know, and steps into the carbonite. Every scene was iconic in Star Wars, not just leaving it as a box office juggernaut, but also making it a masterpiece. Finally, YouTube, we made it to the top of my list, and sitting proudly at number 1 is Steven Spielberg's masterpiece, E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Released in 1982, this beloved film grossed $792 million in the box office, which made it the ultimate hit of the 80s. At its core, E.T. is a story about friendship, where Elliot fell in love with an alien creature from another world, and that captured audiences' hearts around the world. From the iconic bike ride across the moon scene to the tear-jerking I'll be right here scene. E.T. created unforgettable moments that resonated with audiences forever. Spielberg's magic wasn't just in the story, it was in the details. The use of practical effects by John Williams and the emotional performances by the young cast elevated this movie to a cinematic legend. And here's something you might not know about E.T. E.T. was partly inspired by Steven Spielberg's own childhood and his loneliness as a kid, making it one of his most personal films. And decades later, E.T. still holds up as a masterpiece and one of the 80s most iconic films and the highest grossing film of the 80s. And there you have it, YouTubers, the top 10 grossing movies of the 80s. From galaxy-saving Jedis to whip-cracking archaeologists. These films weren't just massive hits, they were cultural icons for the 80s. They continue to inspire and entertain. Now each movie on the list brought something unique to the table. Whether it be action, pounding at your heartstrings, bit of sci-fi, something new, everything that matters. So what about you YouTubers, what's your favourite 80s movie? Did it make the list? If not, leave a comment down in and we'll chat about it later. Now if you enjoyed this trip down memory lane, don't forget to like and subscribe, and thank you for watching Bushwick's Review Hub, and I'll catch you on the next one.